Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Takashi from Japan. So today I'm going to interview foreign man who is married to a Japanese woman. Okay, so this video is about international marriage in Japan, raising biracial kids. Okay, let's get started. Thank you for your time. Can you introduce you guys?
My name's Menya.
Hi, I'm Risa.
We've known each other for about 5.5 years, and we've been married for 3 years.
How did you guys meet? If you may ask.
Of course. Hi, Jazzy.
Hi.
So we met at a Lululemon ambassador
Lululemon?
dinner. Yeah.
Oh.
We met.
I love the brands.
Yeah.
Okay, Lululemon.
We met at a Lululemon ambassador dinner, where she was becoming an ambassador, and I was finishing a month-long influencer campaign. So we met then, and then we didn't start dating until 6, 7 months afterwards. But at the time when we met, we kind of just met as like friends. As
Hey,
just
what's
people.
up?
Like,
Nice to meet you,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And
hey, you
sort
speak
of
English? Yeah, I'm from LA. What's up?
Yeah.
I think the marriage process itself was very straightforward. We
In Japan?
went, yeah, we went to the ward office and then we're married. I think that in itself was simple. I don't know. I think I have a different. I think I've been here so long that my perspective is different. But I don't recall there being anything uniquely difficult about us getting married. And now that we are married as an international couple, I don't think there's anything uniquely challenging about it. But again, I've been here long enough that I can function pretty well. I think if I was maybe in my first or second or third year in
Right.
Japan, it would be much more challenging because I would not know so many things. But because I really had established my own life and my own business, by the time we got married, I don't know, it wasn't that, I didn't find it that difficult. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
The meeting your parents, like how did it go?
So for my parents, I'm a fitness instructor. I do a lot of group fitness. I do a lot of Pilates. For one of the shows, he came, and I think I didn't tell him my parents are coming. They sort of met there for the first time. That was the first meetup.
That was the first time meeting your parents, yeah. It was, in that sense, it was kind of scary, but yeah, it went pretty well. Her father's much more international. He speaks English like exclusively. Her mother's the opposite. She only speaks Japanese with everyone all the time. So it's probably just easier to connect with your dad, but language is a big factor. It's just harder for me to communicate with as much detail with her mother as it is than it is with her dad. With my parents, I think it's easy. My parents are extremely social, outgoing people, so
Oh, it was so difficult for me though. Like,
really.
How?
no,
Oh.
I mean like difficult in the sense. So his family is Kenyan.
Mm.
They're American. Like they're all in America. They're in Boston, but they're all Kenyan. They're very like linear. They're
Different
very,
culture.
yeah, it's a very different culture. So when I went to Boston to meet his parents for the very first time, it wasn't just his parents. It was the aunts and uncles and cousins
so
and
it's
the
a thing
whole
in
crowd.
Kenya. It's a thing in
Whole
Kenya.
crowd.
Yeah, I think Kenyan families tend to spend a lot of time together. So there was a lot of family.
At the time, it was like overwhelming, to be honest. But now it's really nice because they're so loving and like accepting of the entire family, and so I've learned to communicate with them well now, and yeah, they're wonderful people. In the beginning, it was a lot.
Okay. Next question is about raising biracial kids in Japan. Like, is there anything that you try to do for her?
We try to open up the crowd that we introduce her to, so just making sure she meets a lot of different people and culture, so she's not fixed to just one. And so when she understands who she really is, like it'll be more easy for her to accept, like, oh, there's a lot of different people, so like I'm my own person, you know.
I think her experience will be really unique because she has an older brother and sister who are racially Japanese completely. So that dynamic will be really interesting. I don't exactly know how that will play out, but I imagine that it'll be helpful because she'll have in her own family her own siblings who will have a different experience. And I think it's something that they'll talk about as she gets older and can talk. And so I imagine that'll be beneficial versus just being her, and then she wouldn't have anyone to talk to about it and wouldn't have any support like that. So I think having the older siblings who will have gone through the process of like being kids in Japan will be able to kind of help her with the whole thing. But in general, as a foreign guy, specifically like a Black American guy living in Japan, if I had one major concern with my child in Japan, it's not about safety or the quality of the school system, even things like affordability. My one concern is her being biracial in Japan.
Right.
I think Japan is,
Homogeneous?
yeah, it's very homogenous, and she's going to struggle with lots of things things that she would probably struggle with also in America, but it's just going to be more extreme here because of the homogeneity of Japan and her not looking Japanese like everyone else. She'll be considered an outsider until that culture changes. And I don't think that culture will change by the time she's 12, 15, 18. I don't think it'll have changed. I think it'll take more time for Japan to finally open itself up to the reality that having diversity in a country is actually a net good thing. So yeah, anyways, I think that'll be one of the greatest.
Way to go.
Yeah, that'll be one of the greatest kind of struggles for her. But like I said, I think her situation will be quite unique because of her older siblings. That's gonna be quite different than most of the people.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably
It's actually interesting.
very interesting. Yeah.
Does she speak Japanese, English as well? Oh. How did you manage two languages in the household? How do you do that?
So we speak English all the time, so she sort of picks up on the English words. He definitely speaks more English to her. I try to keep it very English based, but sometimes like the Japanese words come out.
She speaks more Japanese, but it just comes out that way.
It
and it's
comes
easier.
out.
Yeah.
She goes to a Japanese preschool right now, so a lot of the words she learns from school, it's like the Japanese songs and what normal Japanese kids would technically be learning. So a lot of her Japanese comes from that, and also her siblings, which speak to her mainly in Japanese. So it's
But they
very
can also speak English, so
it's very
mainly
mixed.
Japanese, but they can also speak English. So I think what'll end up happening eventually is we'll enroll her in some kind of school where she's primarily learning English. But for now, I do think it's great for little children, her age and probably up until 3 or 4, to just go to any kind of, I don't want to say generic, but kind of public school. I think it's a great way to meet people and learn the basics. Things like onegai shimasu, gochujousan desu, ohayou gozaimasu, all that good stuff. And so she's coming home learning more and more of that, which is actually really cool. But I think at a certain point, she'll reach an age where, again, the differences based on the color of her skin and the way she looks will become more relevant. And it's at that time when I think, a change would probably be best. Facing forms of, I don't know if it's discrimination or being maybe ostracized from others, because the overwhelming majority of people are full Japanese.
Right.
So nowhere is perfect, but I do think that in Japan it's probably particularly challenging. And it ends up being I feel like it ends up being a huge part of the way biracial children who become adults, like how their identity forms, being this other in their own country, their entire lives. And that I find really kind of difficult. Other than that, there are lots of pros, whether it's healthcare or safety, security, etc. So definitely lots of good things about raising children here in Japan. Proximity to nature, politeness, all that good stuff. But that con I feel like it's a big one.
Before we continue interviews, this video is sponsored by Tokyo Tree and Sakurako. Sakurako is a subscription service where you receive a monthly book filled with traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks. Sakurako helps in partnering with local Japanese snack makers to continue to share Japanese culture and traditions that have been passed down for over 100 years. This month's theme is Mochi and Fruit Marvel. Let's celebrate the artistry of these Japanese flavors with a selection of mochi and fruit. And Sakurako also has Japanese tableware every month. This month, I got this chrysanthemum dish. This is Ichigo Mochi Manju. You'll find a strawberry red bean paste infused with the juice of Japanese strawberries. This is honey apple mochi. It's wrapped in edible oblate wrapper, ensuring your hands stay clean. And Tokyo Tree is packed with latest seasonal sweets in contrast to Sakurako, which represents traditional Japanese culture. You can feel a modern life in Japan with Tokyo Tree. This month's theme is Osaka Snackcation. Osaka is Japan's culinary capital. Me personally, I love Osaka food such as takoyaki and okonomiyaki. This is chocolate bread bite. They are fluffy and filled with smooth chocolate cream. This is retro corn puffs. Actually, when I was a kid, I used to eat this all the time. So nostalgic. And each snack is explained so that you can see where it was produced, and you can also check origin information. This will give you more places to go when you come to Japan. So if you like to experience having a good quality Japanese snack right in your home, click the link in the description below. Okay, let's get back to interviews. Is there any possibility that you live in America again in the future with kids, or either like after raising kids, just in general, or you think you're gonna spend your rest of your life in Japan, or what do you think? No.
100% moving back to America at some point.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's
Why?
actually
Why and when?
probably within the first 1 year of living in Japan, I've now been here 13 years, I knew that I didn't really want to raise my children here. And if I did have a family here, that I would eventually have to move back to America for the reasons I mentioned earlier. So fortunately, we have that same feeling. She's lived here virtually as long as I have now, about 13, 14 years. And she's always wanted to return to the States, whether that's California or somewhere else in America. So we both got into this relationship knowing that at some point we will return to the US. We just built a business here recently, so that will certainly keep us here longer. But there's virtually no chance we stay here permanently.
What makes you think like that? If it's not about kids, yeah.
Other things, the kids are one thing, but the other things are just conveniences of the US. Like we want to live in a bigger house. We'd like to have pets, like dogs namely, or even cats and stuff like that. And then there are things like the economy. Like, is the Japanese economy going to improve? Probably not. And it may eventually, 10, 20 years from now, but I don't see any reason why things would necessarily get better economically here, or even again in terms of the kids' experience here within a short period of time. So we love Japan and we want to stay connected to Japan, but there's just no way we see ourselves staying here permanently because there's just so much we miss about home. And one thing I didn't mention for me, and then you could share, for sure my family is a huge part of a reason I want to go back. The older I get, the more I realize that, you know, my family is a huge part of who I am and I want to be there for those special events.
I want the kids to have like better, broader perspective about the world. And like right now, they go to international school, but a lot of the kids are from Japan. So naturally, a lot of their ideas are very, very like Japanese based and like こうじゃなきゃいけないとか, like you have to be a certain way. And I think if you're in the States, it's a little bit more different, you know? So.
Is there anything you want people to know before coming to Japan?
Before moving here?
When it comes to this topic, you know, like marriage, raising kids and stuff, yeah. Being like international couple, like, you know, yeah.
So many things to say. First?
Are you do you have something to say, Jazz?
Jazzy, you want to say something? I think when it comes to international relationships and having children and that whole thing, I would say that if you're coming to Japan because you're interested in finding a partner who's Japanese, just bear in mind, whatever culture you're coming from, Japanese culture is very, very different. I have a lot of friends who have married Japanese or Japanese women, and those relationships sometimes work really well, but a lot of times there's a lot of struggle. And I have friends right now who are going through really difficult times because of their choice to marry who they chose to marry. And the biggest thing there is just cultural differences, especially when they've had children. There's a big shift when you have kids.
I think it's the way women perceive themselves. It's not like I want to go home and like go hard at working. It's more like I want to settle down and have kids, and that's sort of the end goal for a lot of Japanese women. And so when they get married to like an expat, for example, they're set for life, and they're just gonna have fun having kids and doing the mom thing, which I'm not saying that that's bad, but when you think about like life goals and values and expectations for yourself and your partner and like that, you know, it's something to consider when you think about life.
I've been here long enough to see basically a lot of foreign guys marry, and this doesn't go one way, but this is my experience with a lot of foreign guys, friends, seeing a lot of foreign guys marry Japanese women, and again, sometimes it goes really well, and that's great, and sometimes it doesn't. I think the cases where it doesn't, it's just unfortunate, but again, a lot changes when women become mothers, and so, you know, you honestly can't know what your partner's going to be like as a mother or as a father until they become that, and that's. People change. Yeah.
Like for
So,
sure, 100%.
not even just Japanese people. Like I'm sure, you know, Americans change when they have kids, but there's a real serious, stark change that happens that at least I've seen and a lot of friends have seen in partners when you get married and have kids.
Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'll keep your mind in my future for my future. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. ありがとうございます. Okay, thank you for watching so far. How was it? That was interesting. I'm also planning to make a video about foreign women who's married to a Japanese man. So when I upload it, please check it out. Okay, anyway, thank you for watching. If you like this video, click like button. Please subscribe to my channel. If you have any question you want me to ask people in Japan, please leave it a comment too. See you next time.